Good morning, people. This is your boy Hunter James. Actually, it's good afternoon already because I always post and publish all my vlogs at noon. So that should be a reminder for you. We're not gonna see any fun, crazy, drunkard, YOLO-ish stuff today. I miss having these kinds of sit-down talks, okay? Because I know for the past vlogs that I've done, I'm always featuring an event or I'm always in drinking places. For today's vlog, as what you see in the title, let's talk about cyclothymia. So everyone's actually asking me about this ever since I have released my Reco vlogs. And I want to actually talk about it. Because cyclothymia is not really a common one. What is cyclothymia? Cyclothymia basically is a rare mood disorder which has similar characteristics of bipolar disorder with a milder and in a more chronic form. If you are suffering from cyclothymia like me, you'd experience cyclic highs and lows that are persistent for at least 2 years or more. From the word cyclic, the root word is cycle. You're having like some sort of cycle when you're having either a mania or depression. Keeps on going around. But you have to find an exit route in order for you to actually keep away with it. And that's what I've been doing. So I always have like some sort of a release, and I need some time for me to actually turn up and move away. With cyclothymic disorder, your lows are a mild depression, but not a really major depression. But it's quite, for me, my kind of depression. It's always redundant, to be honest, but I'm still coping up with them. I'm still trying to get a good grasp of them. My highs are basically my hypomania. It's only symptomatic. It means it's less severe, and my mood elevates from the time before turning to its baseline, and my lows feel only mildly depression. So in between them, I'm just me. I mean, this is what some people say. You are the type of person who doesn't have the midpoint. Always hype up, always low or low down. What distinguishes cyclothymia from regular mood swings is that cyclothymia can increase the chance of having bipolar disorder. My swings or my highs and lows would greatly interfere, obviously, my daily productivity in the day. It's essential though to seek treatment, but as I've said before, there's no exact treatment for cyclothymia. Unlike for bipolar disorder, they can take medications. I don't have medicines that I have to actually take up in order for me to recover or cope up with it. That's why I'm engaging more into physical and physiological means in order for me to actually cope up with it. That's why I have the vlogs, I do performing arts, I do sports as well in order for me to keep up, to have some sort of release. As what some researchers say, and what experts say, cyclothymia is much more common with women, and it actually occurs during the adolescence, and its onset is consistently hard to identify. You wouldn't really actually know if someone has cyclothymia because of the fact it's hard to distinguish. Some would even thought it's bipolar. No, it's a little bit more subtler than bipolarism. It gives you a higher risk of suffering from ADHD, substance abuse, ADD and such, and sleep disorders. I would agree on sleep disorders though. I'm having so much issues with regards of my sleeping disorder. I have insomnia. I thought it just runs with the family because my mom has insomnia, and on the mother's side, they have a bad genetic gene on insomnia. Let's talk about the symptoms of cyclothymia. It's a requirement that it should meet a certain standard. It should have multiple periods of hypomanic symptoms that do not meet criteria for a hypomanic episode, and multiple periods of depressive symptoms that do not meet criteria for a major depressive episode for at least 2 years. So for me, it started out back in college, which is 6 years ago. Here's the next requirement though. Aside from having a series of patterns that would reflect either for hypomania or depression, the time frame symptoms of hypomania and depression have been present for at least half of the time. So that's your midpoint is your safe zone if you're having cyclothymia. The criteria for having a major depressive episode or manic episode shouldn't be met. I know people who suffered bipolar disorders and such has been diagnosed by bipolarism and ADHD has certain standards if it's a major manic episode or depressive episode. For people with cyclothymia, it's never major, but it is and should not be taken for granted and should not be overlooked. Because again, I would like to reiterate, cyclothymia is basically a borderline bipolar disorder. Hypomanic and depressive symptoms are not related to medications, substance abuse, or other medical conditions. So that's what also separates cyclothymia to bipolar disorders and to other mental disorders as well that you would like know. This is the most important one though. Hypomanic and depressive symptoms cause significant disruption in social, occupational, and other functional areas. So you can never really predict. It just hits you in a snap. It affects everything. So don't trigger people who has that. If you have met this criteria, you might probably have, but it is still best and highly advisable for you to meet a psychologist and a psychiatrist in order for you to have a psych evaluation and general evaluation if you really have met the proper criteria of a certain mental disorder. Or even though if you don't have one, if you think you haven't, it's best that you should actually still meet with a psychologist. Guys, meeting or having a session with a psychologist or a psychiatrist should never have a bad stigma. Trust me, they would be the ones that can actually help you. It's not a good annotation that you're meeting a psychologist or psychiatrist. You have it shouldn't be like that. Yeah, irritability, of course. Yes, one of my best friends know this. If I get irritated, that's one of the things. My cyclothymia is actually kicking in. And feelings of sadness, emptiness, or hopelessness, I don't really disclose that to people because I always have the thought of I don't want to bother them. Because I'm the type of person, whenever I can do it or still handle it, I would contain it. I would take it upon to myself to deal with it on my own. If I can no longer stand it or no longer can do something about it, that's the only time I'm going to ask for help. Restlessness. Oh yes, restlessness, especially when you're hypomanic, because everything's up, everything's spiking up. You feel like you're always on the go. And you're like a very high caffeine level, but it's not as crazy as it is. Suicidal thoughts, that's what I have overcome already. But there are moments that it tries to come in that I just have to block it. Weight changes due to eating, much more or much less than usual. I don't have a really strict eating pattern. It's either I overeat or I undereat. Lack of motivation. Oh god, this is what I'm still overcoming though. I'm getting demotivation, but you have to work it out though. You have to get yourself motivated most of the time and learn how to actually step back. Social withdrawal. I'm not really withdrawing myself. Whenever I'm outside, if I really am not in the mood, I would isolate myself. Even though I'm physically there, mentally I'm not there. I would try to actually fall back and make excuses. That's for the depressive state of cyclothymia. And this is the hypomanic symptoms. Euphoric state, exaggerated sense of well-being and happiness. You're always too happy. I know. It tends to be annoying. Inflated self-esteem, inflated optimism, irritability, of course, the decreased need of sleep. Sometimes it happens. Racing thoughts, concentration problems, because your things are running in my mind. You're lacking focus. You're having a hard time to concentrate on a certain aspect. This is one of the problems that I'm still overcoming though. I don't have like an off button. So if my mind turns up and it turns on, it's on. I have to let it die because I cannot turn it off. Impulsivity. Yeah. So like most mental health disorders, the exact cause of cyclothymia is unknown. However, the genetic component of cyclothymia is strong, and there are studies that suggest that the risk of developing cyclothymia is 2 to 3 times more likely if you have an identical twin. You know what? To be honest though, I really wanted to have a twin. I had the feeling that I have a twin. I'm not being melodramatic that I have a twin, like an actual twin, but very unlikely because I know my mom only gave birth to one, and that's me. Environmental factors also likely contributes to factors to being diagnosed with cyclothymia. So, as with bipolar disorder and major depressions, life events may increase your chances of developing cyclothymia. So, such as when I explained before, one of my contributing factors which led me to cyclothymia is a change of environment. How would you identify yourself if you have cyclothymia? There are tests and diagnosis. So if you think you might be suffering from cyclothymia, again, seek the help of an expert, a doctor, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist, because they will be likely to perform a series of tests to make sure the causes of your depressive and hypomanic symptoms are not due to an underlying medical condition, because it there's a big possibility that some of the symptoms or most of the symptoms actually would overlap to another kind of medical condition. It's best that it should be properly identified by a practitioner and a doctor. There are still a lot of developments it has to undergo in order for us to further understand cyclothymia, because it is much more common than what people would actually think, but people doesn't realize that they're having these kinds of disorders already. Living with cyclothymia, less than half of individuals living with cyclothymia develop bipolar disorder. So most of us who has the cyclic or cyclothymic disorder doesn't transition to bipolar. Cyclothymia is a chronic disorder that remains prevalent throughout a lifetime. Cyclothymia seems to dissipate and revolve itself over time. So that's the downside of it. It has like a mind of its own. It's scary, I know. Enjoy the moments that would help you build you as a person. Since you have this for a lifetime. It's chronic. You have to have some sort of a release and a dip bounce back mechanism that would help you survive your day and your life. Yeah, so I think that's just it. Well, for me, cyclothymia, I've lived with it. I mean, I would like to go with the same quote that I have posted in my first Reco vlog though. Basically, this is what always reminds me of trying to deal with it properly though. So ever since puberty, I've had a cyclical depression. That's something that has been a defining feature of my life as an adult. It's manageable, but it's real. And it doesn't take away from my joy or my work or my energy. But coping with depression is something that is part of the everyday way that I lived, and I've lived for as long as I can remember. By Rachel Maddow. That basically speaks to me. Those are one of the things that reflect my actions. And basically, if you see me as like a happy-go-lucky person who's been always happy, always socializing, always like a cool person, I'm not. I mean, I'm just trying to live like any other individual. I always try to keep up with my life. I try to make friends. I try to enjoy my life. That's what I've been doing. And I don't want to have this as like what, a hindering thing and hindering mechanism for me. It should motivate me more, because this is how I cope up with it. This is how I have things working. So yeah, before that, don't forget tomorrow, it's the Philippine Juggernaut first game, the Philippine American Football League opening game. I'll be there the entire day. You have to see that, and you have to go tomorrow. It's in Circuit Makati, but if you want to just watch a game of the Philippine Juggernauts, it's 1 p.m. So I'll see you guys soon, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you, and I'll see you guys soon.